Let's get more One Punch Man content. Since she came out with the video about the most recent episode, the fights look good, but ...
この番組は Gorando
お送りします。
sponsor Bandai Namco, something like that.
お送りします。
Take you there, お送りします. Okay, I fluffed it. One Punch Man Season 3.
I told you he's a paid operative by Bandai Namco. It's a spear campaign, bro. I told you, bro. We're both paid by Bandai Namco. We're Bandai Namco ninjas.
Episode 3 finally showcased some real action, you can say. And it was decent, but it was rough.
The ninja fight was rough. The Garo fight was decent. Again, I think that 7 out of 10 is a decent, like an adequate score. Some people are going to be obviously way more harsh than that, but I think that what we saw for the Garo fight was a 7 out of 10. But here's the thing. That's a pre-animated trailer fight, and they added very little too onto it, which tells me that, like, what's going to happen with the next future fights, if the ninja fight is basically what's going to be the standard, which I hope not, right? And I hope that this is like a very low priority scene. Ninjas are, you know, in the grand scheme of things, very insignificant characters, right? They're not the most important characters in this arc. They're very forgettable characters that just show up, and this is also like a warm-up sparring scene. So I hope that, you know, they saved the fight for the next episodes, but we've been saying that episode after episode.
Well, I feel like there's parts of the episode that looked pretty good, but I think there's another aspect that was lacking. Not so lacking, but definitely not up to beat, you can say. This episode's direction was not it. And
It wasn't.
It's also in the action department. The editing was lackluster. Some cuts didn't really add up, and probably the PV from a year ago felt a bit better. I do think in terms of movement, there's more, the most probably this season, but a lot of the
Royal Ripper looked good though. Royal Ripper also transformed to a girl for a bit. Apparently there was some issues with this scene being outsourced to a different company that didn't even know what Royal Ripper was, and that's why Royal Ripper had titties for a second.
other factors had its shortcomings that made the episode a bit awkward to watch. This episode finished chapter 89 and almost all of chapter 90. You know, I do this segment like I do with my soul leveling, but like OPM season 3, there's literally nothing to talk about the manga since it's 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. I do think Naga is doing this because of time constraints.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the guy, again, doesn't do fight scenes, right? He's a slice of life guy. And if it's a lot of the manga panels, again, it's just, they're going to do a 1v1 for pretty much everything and have pretty decent looking art, but again, it doesn't really connect and the direction is very poor. Like, I think a 1-to-1 is bare minimum, right? I think what an anime should do is take the manga reference and use your imagination, right? Creativity, direct it, change these static scenes into amazing live dynamic moments with the camera work and the perspective shots and different storyboards that would transcend beyond just doing a 1-to-1.
So
Takopi, I think, is a great example of that. I think that Tensero or Classroom the Elite is a very good example of just lazy 1-to-1 yapping. I know that Classroom the Elite is, you know, based off the light novel, but like the scenes, it's just very uncompelling.
Oh, he's doing.
I think that Who Made Me a Princess right now happening is a very good example of good direction. Haven't seen the manga panels or the webtoon panels, but the camera works. Even in conversation scenes, the vibrant background, it's cinema.
This for the sake of completion, which is unfortunate because how this production is so handicapped. But there's some weird decisions in episode 3. Before actually going to the staff and the episode itself, there's another thing that happened. The Chinese.
What?
Oh shit. This episode was an outsourced episode to
Yeah, that's why Royal Ripper had titties.
AAA. This is not a rarity for JC Staff because JC Staff overproduce more anime that they could handle. So of course they have subcontracted studios like AAA. They also did 3 episodes in 2.5D. Fujishiro Project and JC Staff. AAA is a parent company of C2C, but this studio rely a lot on outsourcing to Chinese studios. So basically, JC Staff outsourced the episode to AAA. Then they also outsource it to random Chinese studios.
This is outsourceception. Like, what? Yo, this is crazy. This is actually really, it's funny and sad.
That's why the credits had a lot of Chinese names.
And listen, we've seen what China's capable of producing. We've seen Lord of the Mysteries. We've seen To Be Hero X. We've seen Who Made Me a Princess happening this season. I think Who Made Me a Princess is contender for one of the best shows produced this season. I think it's probably going to go to My Hero Academia based on the amount of hype that I've been hearing about. But excluding that top brass shit, I think Who Made Me a Princess, again, a Donghua, Chinese studio, they're killing it. But then you have shit like this. Guess what? Tibate was also Studio 8 Cat that outsourced, a lot of their work to Chinese studios. Just because it's Chinese doesn't mean it's going to be on that, fucking Tencent backing project.
Consistent with the other episodes that is outsourced to AAA. If you don't know what outsourcing means, it's basically they outsource most of the animation stuff. So production, like animation direction, in between, second KA, layout, maybe, but the episode director.
Outsourcing to me, especially in the corporate world, is this. The company does not have the means or resources to pay local. Rather, they'd save money and hire workers from different parts of the world where there is cheap labor and the quality of the work will also suffer. It doesn't always need to be like that, but there's definitely a very negative connotation tied with outsourcing. And it happens a lot in many different corporations, and specifically in the anime industry. It happens when you are so strapped for time and you need desperate help, and you sacrifice the quality of the work in order to make a deadline.
And storyboarder, photography, all sorts are still the same people. Of course, there's exceptions when they do outsource all of that. The episode is storyboarded by, you guessed it, Shinpei Nagai, and directed by Masahito Otanu and Shuji Miyazaki. The AD list is inflating hella this episode.
That's not good.
We have 10 ADs
and what does that mean? You would think that animation directors improve, going up is a good thing? No. You want small amount of high quality, highly concise, just work output. The more animation directors you have, the more everyone is just scrambling around trying to make a deadline, and it's the vision is lost. It's inconsistent. Everyone's trying to it's too many chefs in the kitchen too.
One assistant AD, so that's very worrying, of course, because it had more movement than before. But 10 for these stuff, yikes.
The caption is moving. The King Engine caption moves more than most of the characters.
Yikes. The action moved, but it was broken. Not mainly the first fight with Garo, but the second one. Both fights had their own issues. The first one moved well in the animation standpoint because they used the pre-anime trailer for the fight, but this PV was only meant for the trailer, not for an actual episode. So to make it make sense, they had to stitch up the fight with adding more scenes here.
And some of the scenes again look good, but a lot of them are looped. The most coolest scene to me is when Royal Ripper is using a blade in an upward attack in slow motion and Garo dodges it. That part was really cool. Also, when Royal Ripper, you got a POV shot of Royal Ripper just going like this and it's popping off. But again, right? It's like what could have happened if this wasn't even pre-animated? That's what I'm really worried about. This is what they've done. And you know what? It makes sense to use a pre-animated trailer, especially in a fucked up project like this. So that means that they should be focusing on the quality of the future fights, right? Or does this mean that we're really cooked and the ninja fight should be the standard that, the future fight should be because we don't have pre-animated content to go off of anymore? I don't know.
But the final product was not the best. Again, from an animation standpoint, it looks decent, but overall how the fight was structured, it was poorly executed. The editing was pretty bad. Some weird decision of removing some cuts from the PV that could have been good if it stayed in.
And this, I think, plays into the inexperience of the director that has no fight expertise, and that's why it felt so wacky and choppy.
Because they put these scenes together, which a portion of it doesn't fit to the episode, so they tried to make it make sense, but the final product was not good. Although Royal Ripper fucking slicing and dicing Garo, folding this motherfucker.
I love this part.
Really nice. Love the weighty animation of Ripper swinging his
sword. The movement.
From the timing, I don't think this is Aoki, so it's probably one of the other animators.
Okay.
There is some animators that have notable work that's working on this episode, but too bad this episode was hella broken. Same with this hair animation, which looks very smooth. Judging from this shot of Garo,
no hair movement.
This is the uncorrected drawing from the animator, since this is different from the usual Garo, although sometimes he also looks off model. The drawing feels different, like this shot. I don't know if it's Kagenashi or not. I'm not looking at the shot right now.
It's not.
The second fight was even worse. The
Yeah.
flow was a bit better because they didn't cram in a scene that was not supposed to be in the episode. But time crunch, blah blah.
Like, it's such a interesting fight because there's moments of greatness that I see just for like a couple frames. Like the fire guy, there are actually some good scenes with the fire guy. Most of the fault I think is with the wind guy though, especially with the janky ass kick that's like stuttering with different like after image effect that looks so awkward. And it's so weird. Like there is no consistency in the fight, therefore there are some parts that kind of look good and then many other parts that just drops the ball. So that lack of cohesiveness, I think, adds more to like how choppy the fight looks. Again, there's other animes happening right now from JC staff that has a worse production line, such as I think that, you know, Dad is a Hero, Mom is a Spirit, I'm a Reincarnator is those production line that has less priority. Yet I think it had a healthier schedule relative. Therefore, it is more cohesive. It's not going to have these peaks, but it's consistent. There is no real consistency in the One Punch Man one because, again, people are speculating there's only half a year of actual production happening, and now you're seeing it.
But time crunch, blah blah blah, penis ball sacks. The problem is the animation. There's some sparks of nice looking cuts, but
Yeah.
between those cuts are limited, broken, janky movements.
Yes.
It's pretty obvious they wanted
This
this
part-
to be a bit ambitious, but the animation couldn't keep up. Lack of in-betweening. They definitely butchered the original layout for the scene since they didn't have time to polish it. Again, you can see some neat stuff. It's very webgen energy, but yeah, no. Good storyboards can't be realized if the animation is not there, and if the boards aren't ambitious, the animator can't flex their animation
It's just a skill issue, huh? It's a combination of skill issue and time.
because they are restricted to very mediocre boards. Of course, you can tweak it. Like
Genshin
I did
Impact!
see a tweet from Nagai that Aoki did change some stuff in the action scenes in episode 2. Now, the overall dialogue stuff, mouth moving, going blah 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 blah. At first, the interaction with Zombie Man and Dr. Genus didn't really look off much. Yeah, people will complain about they showcasing the monsters like sliding, which I don't
Yeah.
really see that big of a problem. They do it in
People wanted like more of like a hype scene when talking about, and basically Dr. Genius is talking about Saitama and how he's able to surpass everything, right? And all these different characters from season 1 and season 2 are being shown. In the manga, obviously, it's going to be limited to just like background still frame, but the anime, again, it should be more than that. I wish that, again, they would have added more direction, right? More like creative imagination, a different storyboard, different shots that aren't just camera moving of this crowd of characters.
season 1 too. The problem is some of the drawings looks
Awkward.
bad, especially this big guy from season 1 episode 1.
Yeah.
The perspective is off. I mean, look at the hand.
It's a big ass boy.
I do think the comedy part still hits for me. I
Okay.
like the change of style, like the shot of Saitama being depressed. Most of the dialogue stuff is stiff.
Yeah, I think that Fubuki coming up with the Napa Cabbage stuff was kind of hype, but the thing that really stood out to me in episode 3 is even the slice of life stuff was really falling apart. And that's because of the pacing of the dialogue. And it has been wanky. It has been choppy all throughout episode 1 and 2. But episode 3 was when it was like, even the dialogue and the cozy slice of life stuff isn't really converting into entertainment as much. The pacing, the flow of dialogue, the transition scenes, it just felt very off-putting. The tempo was off. So now you had a very lackluster fight and the slice of life stuff that you should be claiming as, you know, free points. You're also losing out on that. That's why I think episode 3 is worst episode for me compared to the other episodes in season 3. And I've explained this in the tier list. I think this episode probably is the best episode overall, objectively, whatever that means. But to me, episode 1 and episode 2, the slice of life stuff felt more fun to me. It felt more consistent. And the fact that the fight scenes hasn't really happened yet, and they were teasing me. It's like a video game trailer. You don't know what the gameplay looks like, but they're hyping the shit up, and you're getting teased, and you're like, oh my god, what's it gonna be like? That's why I was glazing episode 2 so much, because I was like, oh, there's some moments of potential here, there's moments of greatness. Then we actually have, again, the curtains rise. The Wizard of Oz is, you know, spoiled, and you now see what we have, and it's like, it's undercooked.
in some parts, while the drawing quality had inconsistencies, like these cuts, it does work a bit since this is a funny moment thing, but my problem for this whole episode is the direction, but maybe more accurately, the editing. I feel like every scene, when it cuts to different scenes, it feels very fast.
Weird. Yes, the tempo, right? I don't know. I call it pacing. I call it tempo. It feels abrupt.
Like one person talking, then it straight away just to another person talking in another
Yeah.
place. Same with this.
Some people were saying that they did this because they were worried that the criticisms would be people complaining about still frames. So they rushed it. If that makes sense. I don't think that really makes sense.
Decision to remove this shot of Saitama that was moving in the PV, but in the episode it didn't move. I get it. They're trying to do with highlighting this part, and then, you know, they changed the focus to this, but nah.
Awkward.
Here's an example. Like me talking right now, I cut a lot because
Damn!
I mess up a lot since I am a retard. But probably for you guys, most of the time, it doesn't feel like that. Here, I'll do it. This is the problem with the episode. So, One Punch Man Season 3 has been looking very different. Overall, I think this doesn't look like the worst, but something feels off, and some feel like my dick going Mach 20 into your mother. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like boom, 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 boom. You see that, right? That's the editing he's talking about.
They don't hold it for like a bit, like this shot.
だっつうの。ほら、キングもじいさんたちも帰った帰った。
And then cut.
野郎くんと話してきたよ。
I wish they would
And
have
then
bit
cut.
when the music hit the last beat, then cut. I know it's nitpicking, but
This I think is not insignificant nitpicking. I think this is very apparent. It's a very subtle thing that is very significant. I think a lot of people felt something was off. The tempo, the pacing, the speed. It felt really weird. And again, this should be something. This part I think should be like 3 points. The director doesn't specialize in fight scenes. I acknowledge that. There's no time to, you know, actually deliver good fight scenes. Sure. Slice of life stuff, you should be good at this. Now you are fucking up the slice of life stuff too, and now it's like, come on, bro. This should be free bonus points that you should be just collecting.
summarize most people's problems about it. This could be also because of the episode being outsourced, so, you know, communication's not gonna be great, and probably since it is an outsourced episode, the time was maybe worse than the first two. If this continues on for the most important stuff this season, shit gonna be ass. I know what the content it's gonna cover, it's gonna be hard.
I honestly forgot what the significant matchups are going to be for season 3 stuff, because all I remember really is the end game stuff of this saga, the really significant matchups near the really end, you know, leading up to Saitama versus Garo. The early game stuff is very not memorable for me, but I really hope that, I don't know if, I think that the opening basically shows that it's going to end with Orochi versus Garo, right? The scene that, you know, Garo does, I think that is like a manga frame from that fight, so that should be the timeline.
To adapt, they'll use CG for the big people. I mean, we haven't seen much, if not any CG usage, even for background, so Nagai might not be talking about these stuff. Maybe later on. Again, there's some stuff I didn't talk about, like, yeah, usual art direction good, sharp color palette contrast, nice. I'm not gonna repeat it again and again. Hopefully they save most of the resources in the second half, but the only miracle that could happen for this project is a delay, but we all know that won't happen.
Cancel season 3, bro. Straight up. I would totally be fine with One Punch Man season 3 just being dropped. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that there are contractual obligations to follow through. I don't think it's as easy as, hey, petition to cancel it. Like I don't mind waiting another 5 years if they're going to remake it. Go ahead. But like, I don't think that's actually like feasible in reality.
If you guys like this video, leave a like. If
you
hate
didn't,
it,
leave a like.
Comment down below what your thoughts about this episode, and
I love this part though. I genuinely did love the villain part, the cadres, you know, Homeless Emperor, Black Sperm, all of them, you know, being highlighted. But the story can only carry so much. Again, this episode, even though it's probably the best episode of this season relative to episode 1 and 2's lack of production value, it is very lukewarm and disappointing because I mean, you saw the fight, right? And again, I think for me personally, episode 2 was really fun. Episode 1 was like, hey, we're back to One Punch Man. It's been such a long time. And even though it's just, you know, mouth moving, I felt hype. I was like immersed into the story. Episode 2, again, it gave me a glimpse of like teasing of the fight scene that looked really cool with the clash against Royal Ripper and Garo. And I was like, okay, let's fucking go. And now we actually see it for what it is. And it is very disappointing. And I hope that the future fights are way better. I mean, we've been saying this over and over again. I might make a video about this topic later on, but you know what happened with Blue Lock, right? I don't think what happened at the end of Blue Lock Season 2 will necessarily happen with this just because they share the same production committee, right? Because it's a different studio, entirely it's different directors. But my God, if they could just have someone pull up to just deliver the final fight in just an amazing way and give us a good, you know, ending, that would be great. And maybe a lot of people will just forget and go with the recency bias. Here's a link to Sinchi's video. Link to the video. Go give him a like. Check out his content. Educate yourself on production value. See you next time.